Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the What is the LNRS webinar. Today, we're going to be hearing from Seb Shepard, representing NE, FC, and EA on what is the LNRS, have an overview of the habitat opportunity maps from Matt Johnson, and a bit about the LNRS engagement and how it relates to BNG from Tris Baxter-Smith. So, Seb, if you would like to
share screen.
Oh, welcome to.
Brilliant. Is that now showing? You see that? Yeah. Brilliant.
Yes.
It should be a slide that says, what is local nature recovery strategy? So hi, I'm Seb Shepard. I'm from Natural England and I'm team leader for Northamptonshire. I'm going to talk a bit about the sort of high level what is a local nature recovery strategy today, or you might hear it referred to as an LNRS. That's the acronym. Just to give a bit of background of where LNRSs have come from, in 2010, the government commissioned a report of the state of wildlife sites in the country. This was done by Professor Sir John Lawton, and it's known as the Lawton Report. And there were a lot of different findings from the report, but in terms of the key headline figures, we found that a lot of the country's wildlife sites were isolated. We had some pockets of rich biodiversity, but these were very disconnected and isolated. And the key theme finding was that nature needed to be, nature recovery needed to be bigger, better, and more joined up. So we need to be thinking about bigger approaches to how to recover nature in response to losses since the Industrial Revolution. So as a result, the government in their 25-year environment plan committed to delivering a nature recovery network. And the idea behind this is just like a highways network that would connect important towns and cities for people, we need to try and have a network of habitats that connect important locations for the important species in our country. And LNRSs, or local nature recovery strategies, are the strategies which government wants to try and deliver the nature recovery network. So these are new spatial strategies, and I apologize, you probably won't be able to see all the text on this map, but right now in England, there are 48 of these different strategy areas where the government has asked a responsible authority to deliver an LNRS. So in Northamptonshire, we have two responsible authorities, West Northamptonshire Council and North Northamptonshire Council, and they're each responsible for their area to make their recovery strategy. So again, apologies for text on here, but this is just the key elements that need to be included in an LNRS. So what does an LNRS need to include? And this is all set out in the Environment Act in 2021. So the two main things are a statement of biodiversity priorities and a local habitat map. So the statement of biodiversity priorities will basically be almost a baseline of biodiversity, of what is present in the strategy area. So what important habitats and species do we have in Northamptonshire? And it'll also describe where there are opportunities for recovering, enhancing biodiversity, as well as our priorities. So what is locally important in terms of the habitats and species that we want to aim to recover and enhance in the medium-term future, and then measures to help deliver these priorities. So if a priority in Northamptonshire was woodland creation, a measure might be control of an invasive species such as deer. So as well as the statement of biodiversity priorities, there is a mapping element of the LNRS called the local habitat map, and that as well has to show what is currently present in the county. So where your national conservation sites are, like SSSIs, where nature reserves are or local wildlife sites, as well as other areas that are deemed to be important for biodiversity or areas that could become of particular importance for biodiversity or could deliver other environmental benefits, such as habitat creation that could help stop, prevent flood risk. So to give it a bit of an example what these maps could look like, there were some initial pilot LNRSs. These were before the current guidance was published, so they might not look quite like this, but one of the example pilots was in Cornwall. So on the left, you've got their existing nature network, so where there are currently protected sites, nature reserves and county wildlife sites, and then other areas of importance that they deemed important in Cornwall. And then you've got those opportunities where could be important based on the priorities they had in Cornwall, which were creating wetland, woodland, and heathland habitat. These are the areas they've mapped as opportunities in their local nature recovery strategy pilot. So I won't go into the detail of all these boxes here, but these flowcharts basically describe that the LNRS and all these LNRSs will be published next year. That this is an ongoing process, and every 3 to 10 years, the Secretary of State will call upon responsible authorities to review, update, and republish their LNRSs. And so the snapshot that we get next year will be what the responsible authorities in North and West Northamptonshire see as our priorities for recovering nature in those areas in 2025. And then we'll move into all the different partners in the area taking action to try and deliver that strategy. And then at the next review date, look back at what's been done and update and republish. So that brings us on to the idea isn't that this is just a strategy that sits on a shelf, that the hope is once published that these will be delivered. And the Environment Act in 2021 establishes a few mechanisms to try and aid this. So one is biodiversity net gain, which if you're familiar with, became mandatory in February of this year and will influence the uptick in developments that developers need to show to get planning permission for new developments. So if an area is highlighted in the local nature recovery strategy as being strategically significant or a priority, that can influence the way in which the BNG units are calculated. So it could be important for developers. It could also be important for landowners who are interested in using their land for biodiversity net gain. In addition to this, local authorities have been given a strengthened duty for nature conservation. So instead of just conserving nature, the language has changed to conserving and enhancing. And as a result, the LNRS is intended to try and fit in with other strategies like local plans. So it could affect where sites are allocated in local plans. The overall purpose of the LNRS is to identify locations for habitat creation or restoration to provide the greatest benefit for nature. But the idea is that this isn't just on the responsible authorities to deliver, and the key word in the strategy is that it's local, and the local nature recovery strategies have a requirement to be inclusive and transparent and clearly communicated. So one of the goals, or one of the requirements of the guidelines, is that the LNRSs include as many people who want to voice their opinion and feed into what they think the strategy should include. And so it's a requirement that for the LNRS to actually work in terms of delivering it, we need to hear from as many people as possible. And landowners, farmers and estates are a really key stakeholder in both West and North Northamptonshire in terms of being able to deliver nature recovery. So on that note, I'm from Natural England, and Natural England are a supporting authority to both the North and West Northampton LNRSs. So we're one of the checks and balances in the publication process, but alongside the other DEFRA group arm's length public bodies, the Forestry Commission and the Environment Agency will also be feeding into the LNRSs in Western North Northants in terms of the evidence base for woodland issues, water issues, protected sites issues, and other things to do with nature recovery. And all of these public bodies have really critical schemes for the delivery of the LNRS with landowners. So we're really keen to engage landowners in this process. And I've got up on screen now just some of the key contacts from Natural England, but as well as the Forestry Commission and Environment Agency who are involved in the LNRS for North Northants and West Northants. So if you have any questions for specific agencies, you're welcome to direct those to the addresses on the screen. So I think with that, I'll just say thank you and I'll stop sharing and pass on to the next person.
Great. So that'll be Matt Johnson from the Wildlife Trust for Bedfordshire, Thames and Northants, telling us about the habitat opportunity maps.
Great. Hopefully that's showing my maps on the screen now. So yeah, as Seb said, the sort of initial part of the LNRS is to produce a base map of sites that are important for wildlife. And this is the one that we've got so far for Northamptonshire. So obviously it doesn't cover every site that's important for wildlife. We've not got maps of sort of every bit of farmland and hedges or sort of more urban sites, parks and gardens, but it's focused on the protected designated sites initially. So things like our sites of special scientific interest, our ancient woodlands, our national nature reserves, and then also our locally designated sites. So our local wildlife sites and local nature reserves, as well as some other areas of priority habitat. So this is kind of what we have as our sort of our base for where wildlife is at the moment. And you can start to pick out some of the important landscape areas as well. So you can pick out the Nene Valley gravel pits, the woodlands in the Rockingham Forest down at Yardley and Whitterwood. Also some of sort of the corridors along the canals, the rivers and disused railways. So that's basically our starting point. And then given that we're covering the whole county, then we've used some sort of computer mapping. First, we've turned these into sort of broad habitat types. So basically just mapping out grasslands, wetlands and woodlands. And that we've been able to use as a base map for habitat opportunity mapping. So that's basically a computerized way of mapping out where all the good potential opportunities are for creating new habitats based on how far fields or land parcels are away from existing habitats. So the closer, if you've got two sort of woodlands here, then linking up an area of grassland in between or woodland there would be a good opportunity. So these are some of the opportunity mapping that we've done so far. This is an example of our woodland one. So the sort of the red shading is the sort of priority areas. They're linking up potentially designated protected sites. The purpley pink areas, there are sort of second tier of priorities. So they're areas that would link up locally designated sites like local wildlife sites. And then the green parcels are all the other opportunities for linking up existing woodlands. So this is a map saying this is where we're going to create new woodlands, but this is a map saying these are all the best opportunity areas to do so. But there's a lot of work to do with the LNRS to start prioritising where is actually this work achievable, which is about our biggest priority areas, where is it not achievable because it's high quality farmland, etc. So that's just an example of some of the woodland mapping. And then here I've got an example of the grassland mapping. Obviously we have less sort of species, wildflower rich grassland, so potentially less opportunities to link up and buffer existing sites. But again, you can see some of the important areas around the Nene Valley. And then up in the corner, I've got a zoomed in map that kind of just shows it zoomed in scale. So the mapping has been done at sort of a land parcel by parcel layer. So hopefully, rather than that sort of the older broad brush approach, this is kind of useful both at a county scale, but also at a landowner farm scale as well. So we've done a lot of this initial mapping so far, and we've also mapped out opportunities for where creating habitats will also benefit different ecosystem services. So sort of services that nature rely on. So we've mapped out where we think that creating new habitats, so new woodlands or new grasslands or new wetlands would also benefit water quality, so improving water quality, Water flow, so this map here shows sort of where you could create new habitats to slow the flow of water entering the head streams and therefore potentially reducing flooding downstream, and also where you can create new habitats to better regulate climate and improve air quality. And by combining them all together, we can start to sort of pick out some of the priority areas, or we've also done some broad brush creating of priority areas ourselves, so sort of saying things like the Nene Valley, the Rockingham Forest, some of the sort of urban areas where we've got potential expansion to settlements. But really, we're at the stage of the LNRS now where we're going out and talking to people and want to know where are the local priorities, because our computer mapping can only take us so far. We need the sort of the ears, the eyes, the knowledge, local knowledge on the ground to pull out of this where the priorities are to start realizing those opportunities through the LNRS. So that's just a brief overview of some of the mapping work that we've done that we're hoping will be part of what feeds into the LNRS over the coming year. And I'll stop sharing there and pass on to Tris.
Okay, thanks, Matt. So yeah, my name's Tris Baxter-Smith. I'm the land advisor for Nene Rivers Trust. My role is obviously going out and talking to farmers and explaining some of the schemes we have running at the moment. I just wanted to talk a little bit about LNRS and how it links up with farming and the farmed landscape, and primarily through biodiversity net gain, BNG, as well, talking a little bit more about that. So in essence, LNRS is, from a farming perspective, you may hear it talked about in conjunction with Countryside Stewardship Plus, which is what the government hopes will come out of the discussions they're having at the moment to connect mid-tier stewardship and higher level with SFI, Sustainable Farming Incentive, and amalgamate all of that into one scheme. And they're hoping to deliver that to farmers by the end of the summer. LNRS will form part of that as the sort of ground truthing exercise to find out exactly what is on the ground so that we know where the baseline is to improve upon. But anyway, I'll talk a little bit more about that now and hopefully show you some context. Just need to share my screen. So bear with me. Okay. Local Nature Recovery Scheme, LNRS, could impact things like countryside stewardship applications and also BNG, biodiversity net gain, which no doubt some of you will have heard of. We'll hopefully do another webinar on biodiversity net gain a bit later on, but for now, this is how LNRS may impact it. So the principle of LNRS is that it is a essentially baseline of what habitats exist in a particular catchment, and it could be summarized in calling it a ground truthing exercise. So you as farmers, landowners, residents as well, will be helping inform the decisions that go forward in terms of what goes where, in terms of regeneration, biodiversity net gain, all that sort of thing. And in order to do that accurately, there needs to be an idea of what exactly exists in reality. And this is where you come in as landowners. So what I'm going to show you today is just an example farm that we have here. I'm using the Land app, but you can use any mapping sort of facility that you have available. So what we're going to see first is the UK HAB biodiversity base is the best guess, the baseline. So if I turn that on, and it's identified various features. I've actually added some of these to this map, but essentially what we've got is in orange an arable cropping area, and then we've got stewardship areas in these other colours. So we've got a legume mix in this striped area, a hay meadow in this green striped area, permanent pasture over here, and grass strips that we can see there. We've got scrub in orange, in purple, and then we've got a couple of areas of little woodland here. Now this is the map as I have created it. So I've had to add to what the baseline said, because the baseline only identified this as just one big arable block and this as something else, but it couldn't identify what. So I've had to essentially ground truth the UK Hab best guess baseline, because it is a best guess, and this is what LNRS will need is your input to make sure that our best guess is as accurate as possible. So for example, I added the scrub on this corners here. I added the two little pockets of woodland, these grass strips, the permanent pasture as well. And then I just more accurately identified what was in these parcels. So a legume mix here, birdseed mixes in these top areas, and a hay meadow here. Now the numbers that are on these parcels, that relates to the BNG score. So this is essentially BNG allocates a value to any kind of biodiversity habitat that exists. And as you can see, this is how they're valued and scored according to BNG. So we've got 0 rated for arable. Then we've got a rating for the scrub, for the wood. And this will depend on the area that you're in and the sort of what that area needs in particular at any given time. And then at this point, obviously things like hay meadow, very highly valued. So that's interesting to know. This is a useful tool because you can then measure your uplift. So you can, if for example you were to turn this parcel into a wood, you could then see what the difference it would be for biodiversity net gain, whether that would increase your points or decrease it, and whether that be worth you doing. This is a tool that's exclusive, I think, at the moment to LandApp, but I may be wrong. I think other sort of facilities are plugging into this as well. This is just one that I use. So LNRS will be a tool that will enable potentially developers looking to spend BNG credits, looking to acquire BNG value. They'll be looking at the local nature recovery scheme and thinking, okay, which areas have we got near a development that would provide us with good uplift? And if the data on your farm or the data that we have through LNRS isn't accurate, then that you're less likely to be approached and to be to be able to tap into that value if that's something that you want to do for your business. So that's another value that LNRS has. Okay, so yeah, in summary, then it's just really important at this stage that farmers, that landowners stay engaged with the process, because there's an awful lot of listening being done at the moment. Lots of organizations are listening to what you want and what you have to deliver as part of these schemes, and it's really important that you try and engage as much as possible, because if you don't, then the schemes are less likely to deliver benefit where benefit needs to be delivered. So landowners, farmers are absolutely essential to keeping plugged into these processes and making sure that we get meaningful benefit from it. And the rewards are there, right, as well for landowners. If you are plugged into this, if you are keeping abreast and keeping informed, informing these discussions yourselves, you're more likely to benefit from the outcomes, whether that is BNG, so private capital finance, or whether that's sort of options in Countryside Stewardship Plus, SFI, all of this stuff is going to be informed in part by LNRS. So that's what I'd want you to take home from that. And one of the best ways of staying informed is to keep checking out on our website. Ricky Lee will pass on the details of that. There's a survey on the website to complete as well that will help you stay up to date and keep us engaged and linked in with what you have on the ground. Yeah, just keep your eye on communications, farming cluster groups. There's going to be a lot of this information being delivered to those groups in the next few months. So yeah, thank you very much. I will pass you on now to Ricky Lee. And if there are any questions.
If you have any questions about anything that you have heard today, you are most welcome to email info@neneriverstrust.org, and we will do our best to answer your questions. You can also find out more about what's happening with the LNRS as it evolves and develops at www.neneriverstrust.org/LNRS. We also have a calendar of events on that webpage. We will be uploading some engagement events planned for May. I believe we'll be running 3 engagement events. So definitely give the webpage a little look, and you can pop down and let us know your thoughts. I think that's all. We don't have any questions for you guys. But yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.